Okay, so the video I just did was for a child when we're talking about looking at a book. And so what kinds of things can we think about when we're working on language or receptive language or having kids follow simple directions, which is cognition. The other part of looking at a book as well is that whole social connection. So many times, as nice as it is to have a child sit on your lap and getting all comfy, because I love that too, I try to sometimes have them sit in front of me while I'm looking at a book so I can look at them and they can look at me and see how to help make some of those sounds and use some of those words. And if we're using sign language, that also assists when they're looking directly at you. So now let's also talk about when we're working with babies, and some of the things when we're talking about therapy when we have little ones is that they have a condition called torticollis, which is stiff or tight neck and shoulder muscles. And so a lot of times we go in with our younger kiddos and we do some stretching activities, because when they have tightness on one side, it makes them have a preference for kind of tucking in, and then they might play or bat with toys but not have a full range of motion. So some of the things as a therapist, what we're looking for is always having things at midline. We want children to use their right and left side equally, and when they start to get on all fours, we want that to look very balanced in right and left side. Sometimes if kids have tightness and they're beginning to show some mobility when they're on the ground, they might do an army crawl or be doing a hitch crawl and just using one side of the body because the other side is not able to have free range of motion equivalent to the other side. So those are things we're always looking and talking about. So part of what that would look like with teletherapy is if you had a young child and they're on the floor, and let's say they're on a mat, and part of the conversation might be, I've noticed when they're on their belly, they seem to be doing better and they're not getting as fussy, but yet they're only reaching up with their right side and not their left side. So what are some strategies or things that I can do? I'm implementing the belly time and doing it a lot more frequently, but they still show that they're struggling on one side. So let's say they're not quite reaching up so much with one side. We definitely want to make sure we're putting more toys on that side, because that will make them more excited to go after something. If they realize that they're on one side of the body, they're going to try, even if it's a little more difficult. So even though we're wanting midline and we're strategically thinking we want everything kind of here and reaching up with right and left, but if they show that they're having a preference and maybe not doing as much on the right side, then we're going to really work on that right side. We're going to put more toys over to that side. We're going to make them really reach and stretch. If we find that they're really retracted there and they're just not reaching that arm out, something you might be able to do too is to maybe roll up a towel and put that under the arm so they can't quite bring it back as far. That will actually give them a nice little stretch through there and will help to encourage that arm to stay out, and they can't bring it all the way in because you've got a towel under there. So that would help. So that might be something where teletherapy might be beneficial when we're talking about different strategies or ideas. And there's nothing magic that we bring in that toy bag that is making the child successful. It's more about how we position the child and how we can change things in the environment to make them more conducive for your child's learning or for whatever delay that they have at that time. Or let's say the child is maybe having some difficulty in sitting up, and what does prop sitting look like? So if I have my child here and they're falling over, but I want them to sit up, what can I do? So one of the examples I did in the video last week was to use a laundry basket and to put a pillow around the back. You could try that, and those are things you readily have at home. You could also work, and let's say, oh, if we're doing teletherapy and I see you have a toy just sitting out, hey, try that toy right over there and see if you put that in between their legs, if that helps to support their weight and balance a little bit better, and then put their hands on the top and see if that helps. So some of it will be just helping you navigate through some of the areas that you're finding to be more difficult or challenging, and trying to offer you some ideas or suggestions on activities that you can do every day that will help your child meet their milestones. So whether it is motor planning, whether it is maybe feeding, we could also have the opportunity to have the video conference sometime when you're doing a session and you're having lunch or having a snack. If you're finding they're not transitioning well to the sippy cup, or maybe to an open cup, or maybe they're gagging and choking on food, we could do a session during a meal time and we could talk about some different ideas that we could incorporate into meals that might make it a little easier and more pleasurable for your family. Sometimes kids just don't like to sit at the table at all. And so some of it is not so much the food as it is getting them to sit so that you guys can have a meal together. And that's so important right now because we are mostly all at home, either working from home or we're laid off temporarily and so we're at home, or we're home but we still have that advantage of having everyone there at one time. So you definitely want to take that opportunity to work on some of those things that will be lifelong things that you will enjoy with your family for sure. So anyway, I just kind of wanted to give you some insight into what teletherapy might look like. And again, some of the instructions in the newsletter goes over some daily living activities and skills that you can do with your family. But teletherapy really is going to be a coaching model where you are taking charge of your family and you're playing and doing activities, and you can make a list of things that you are concerned about in the meantime, or things that you've been working on at home, or what are some of the areas in which you're really struggling right now. And those can be things that we talk about during the teletherapy, as well as making lists of things in between those sessions about, oh, I wish I would have asked while we were on the phone. You can always still text or you can still call, or if you have a list of things that, oh, I think next week I see how this is going to go. These are some things I want to ask her, or I have this toy, but I really don't know what to do with it besides, let's say it's play food. So let's say you have play food sitting here. I really don't know what to do except, we'll cut it because it's Velcro and I've got this knife. So I could give you some ideas on, we want to be really descriptive. Apple. We could use some sign language. We could describe what the object is. We could talk about cut, cut, cut. Ooh! See how the expression changes? We throw in some environmental sounds. We could talk about the baby eating. Baby. Baby. Eat apple. Num, num, num. Can you give baby bite? So we can talk about different ideas that you have with things you already have in your house, and it can be anything. We can make an activity, whether it's cognitive or motor learning, planning, whatever it is, we can always set up an activity for success and work with your child in that manner. Also, we can do ball play. We can talk about different ways you can play with a ball and ways you can utilize that. So if we're talking motor planning, we can talk about hiding objects. So if you're working with a young child and you want to see them start to look for hidden objects, then grab a towel, grab any object you have in your house and hide it. Where'd it go? So there's many strategies and things that we can implement during these sessions. So just food for thought. It's something you can definitely sleep on and take your time thinking about. And we're always here at any time. So just reach out to us and let us know. We'll talk to you soon.